All right, let's dive in. We're tackling Rich Dad, Poor Dad for teens. And don't worry, this isn't just some teen advice column. It's got wisdom for all ages.
Oh, for sure. The book hammers home the importance of financial literacy early on, which is key to building wealth.
Right off the bat, the book talks about this rat race thing.
Yeah, it paints a pretty bleak picture, doesn't it?
Totally, you're stuck working, spending all your earnings, and never really making any progress. Like you're on a treadmill going nowhere.
The author actually illustrates this with an anecdote, about playing a financial board game with his daughter and some other adults. He ends up being the only one to escape the rat race because he understands, like, the financial concepts, right?
Okay, so he's the board game champion, but it's how everyone reacts that's interesting. You've got the computer programmer who thinks software can teach him everything about money.
Right. Totally dismissive.
And then there's the banker, who you'd think would be financially savvy, but even he has this big aha moment and realizes he hasn't been applying this stuff to his own life.
It's amazing how even people who work in finance can miss the practical side of things.
Absolutely. And then there's the daughter's reaction. She realizes that financial literacy could give her the freedom to pursue her passions, without being tied down to just a big paycheck or a safe job. It's about options, right?
Totally. So we've established the rat race is bad news. How do we actually avoid it?
Well, the book digs into this core principle, the difference between assets and liabilities.
And that's where things get really interesting. The author challenges some traditional thinking, like, for example, he argues that a house, something that most people see as their biggest asset, is actually a liability.
Oh, hold on. A house is a liability. That's wild. How can something so valuable actually be costing me money?
Well, think about it. Many people spend their entire lives paying off that mortgage on top of all the other expenses like property taxes, insurance, repairs. It's a constant drain on their cash flow.
So instead of jumping into a big house, he's saying we should focus on building assets first, things that actually put money in our pockets, not take it out.
Precisely. He suggests investing in things that generate cash flow, like rental properties, stocks, or businesses. Once you have that consistent income coming in, then you can afford a house without being weighed down by all that debt.
That's a different approach, but it makes a lot of sense. So understanding assets versus liabilities is key. But the book also says one of the biggest reasons people stay trapped in this cycle is financial illiteracy. What exactly does that mean?
It means that a lot of people just don't have the ability to read and understand financial information. It's not just about being good at math, but understanding what the numbers are telling you.
So it's about the story behind the numbers.
Exactly. The author calls it cash flow and stresses that it's crucial to financial success. You've got to see where your money's coming from and where it's going.
Okay, it's not just crunching numbers. It's understanding their meaning. Makes sense. But how do we learn to read that story? Is there a secret decoder ring or something?
Well, it starts with education and being willing to learn. The book has a ton of practical advice on analyzing financial statements and getting a grasp on different investment strategies.
Okay, so we need to understand cash flow and then start building assets. But what about people who are already really successful? Is it all just luck, or is there something else going on?
The book digs into the role of corporations and how they're a powerful tool that wealthy people use to build and protect their assets.
Corporations. That sounds a bit intimidating.
It can seem that way, but it's about understanding the historical context. See, taxes were originally aimed at the rich, but they've changed over time to affect everyone, including those who aren't wealthy. However, the wealthy use corporations to legally reduce how much they pay in taxes.
Hold on. How do corporations help them avoid taxes? Doesn't everyone play by the same rules?
Well, not exactly. It boils down to timing. Employees earn income and get taxed on it before they can spend it. Corporations, however, can spend money on business expenses before they're taxed on their profits. Imagine a corporation spends, say, $10,000 on equipment before making $20,000 in profit. They only get taxed on that $10,000 difference, not the entire $20,000. That's a huge advantage.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. So they're using corporations to their advantage in ways most people don't even realize. It's like a whole other set of rules.
You could say that.
Hmm.
And it's not just about taxes. Corporations also provide legal protection from lawsuits. If a corporation is sued, the owner's personal assets are generally safe. But when an individual gets sued, they often risk losing everything they own.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So what's the takeaway for us regular folks? Should we just work harder and hope for the best?
Not exactly. The book suggests a completely different mindset. Instead of just focusing on earning a paycheck, it encourages you to work to learn valuable skills. It's about building up your own human capital, not just relying on a job.
That's a great point. It's not always about the immediate payoff, but about what you're learning along the way. It's like investing in yourself.
Exactly. The book has the story about a journalist who wanted to be a best-selling author, but she refused to learn about sales and marketing. She thought it was beneath her, that her writing alone would be enough to achieve her goals.
Oh, I can see where this is going. Her writing was only part of the equation.
Right. The book argues that many of us are one skill away from great wealth. If we can master a skill that works well with our current talents, our earning potential can really take off. It's about finding those synergistic skills.
So in her case, learning sales and marketing could have helped her promote her own books. She could have reached a larger audience and had a bigger impact.
Exactly. And you don't always need a fancy degree to acquire those skills. The book recommends taking on second jobs or finding opportunities that teach you valuable skills, even if the pay isn't great right away.
So it's not about chasing the highest paying job right out of the gate, but finding opportunities that will teach you valuable skills that will pay off down the road.
Exactly. The book uses McDonald's as an example to illustrate this point. Their success isn't just about their burgers, right? It's about their mastery of business systems, like franchising, standardized processes, efficient training programs. They figured out how to create a scalable and profitable business model.
That's a great example. So we've got this whole concept of the rat race, understanding assets versus liabilities, the importance of financial literacy, and how corporations can be used. It's a lot to process.
It is, and the book doesn't stop there. It also talks about the obstacles that prevent people from achieving financial success, like identifying 5 key reasons people struggle: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance.
5 financial foes. We need to be ready to battle those if we want to escape the rat race.
Absolutely. Understanding those obstacles is the first step to overcoming them.
All right, that sounds like a great place to pick up in part 2. We'll delve into those 5 financial foes and how to conquer them. See you there.
So let's kick things off with fear. It's a big one when it comes to money for a lot of people.
Oh, totally. Especially when it comes to investing. I know I get nervous thinking about losing money.
It's a natural feeling.
Yep.
The book acknowledges that everyone experiences fear, even the wealthy. It's what you do with that fear that makes all the difference.
So it's about managing fear, not avoiding it altogether.
Exactly. The author really emphasizes that losing money is just part of the game. And it's how you learn from those losses that matters. He even shares this little rhyme from his rich dad that says, if you hate risk and worry, start early.
Start early, meaning the earlier you start investing, the more time you have to bounce back from any losses.
Exactly. Time is a huge asset when it comes to investing. The younger you are, the more time you have to ride out market fluctuations and watch those investments grow. The book also stresses the importance of having a positive attitude towards failure.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection. If you view failure as an opportunity to learn, it becomes less scary.
Right. The author even talks about how his rich dad intentionally took on a risky investment that he knew might fail.
Wait, why would he do that? That doesn't sound very financially savvy.
He did it because he knew even if he lost money, he'd gain valuable experience that would help him make smarter choices in the future. He believed that failure was like a stepping stone to success.
So it's like that saying, you learn more from your losses than your wins.
That's a great way to put it. So fear is something to manage, not avoid. Now, what about cynicism? How does that hold people back financially?
Well, cynicism is like that chicken little mentality,
Hmm.
always expecting the sky to fall. It can make people miss out on good opportunities because they're too busy focusing on what could go wrong.
Exactly. The book shares an anecdote about this guy who is constantly worried about the price of oil going up. Instead of just complaining, the author saw this as a potential opportunity.
So he flipped the script.
Yeah, he did his research on undervalued oil companies and ended up profiting when the price of oil did go up.
So instead of letting cynicism paralyze him, he took action and actually made money from the situation. That's pretty inspiring.
It is. And it shows that even when there's negative news, there can be profitable opportunities if you know where to look.
Okay, cynicism check. What about laziness? How does that play into all of this?
The book has a kind of surprising perspective on laziness. It says it's not just about being inactive, but about staying busy to avoid dealing with important issues, like financial ones.
So it's like people use busyness as a way to avoid dealing with their money.
Exactly. A lot of people distract themselves with work, TV, shopping, anything to avoid facing their finances.
I can definitely see that. It's way easier to binge watch a show than to create a budget or track your investments.
Right. But avoiding those tasks just keeps you stuck in that rat race we were talking about.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've covered fear, cynicism, laziness.
Mhm.
What about bad habits? Everyone's got those.
When it comes to finances, bad habits usually revolve around how we handle money, like spending more than we earn or impulse buying things we can't really afford.
Ah, yes, the classic retail therapy trap. Feels good in the moment, but then the guilt and the debt come knocking.
Right. The book stresses the importance of building good financial habits, like paying yourself first.
Pay yourself first. That sounds interesting, but how does that work in practice?
It means setting aside a percentage of your paycheck, say 10%, for savings and investments before you pay any bills or buy anything else. It's all about putting your future self first.
I used to think saving was impossible until I started treating it like a bill that had to be paid every month. It's crazy how quickly it adds up.
That's a great strategy. It's about discipline and prioritizing your future over immediate gratification.
Okay, so we've got fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and last but not least, arrogance. How does that get in the way of financial success?
The book defines arrogance as ego plus ignorance, which is, that dangerous mix of thinking you know everything and refusing to learn anything new.
Oh, I know a few people like that. Their minds are made up no matter what.
And that close-mindedness can be a disaster financially. The book talks about being humble and always seeking knowledge. It's about acknowledging that you don't know everything and that the world of finance is constantly evolving.
Makes sense. You have to be flexible and willing to adapt your strategies.
Exactly. Arrogance can make people stick to old ideas and miss out on new opportunities. You got to be open to new information and willing to change direction when you need to.
So to recap, we've got fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. 5 big obstacles to financial success. But it sounds like they're not impossible to overcome, right?
Not at all. With the right mindset and the right strategies, we can conquer them. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Teens lays out how to do just that.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. The rat race, assets versus liabilities, financial literacy, the power of corporations, and these 5 financial foes. What are some of the biggest takeaways from Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Teens that we can apply to our own lives?
I'd say the most important message is that financial literacy is a skill you can learn, and it's never too late to start.
Even if you're not a teenager.
Right, exactly. The book empowers you to take control of your finances, create wealth, and achieve financial freedom. It all starts with understanding those core principles of money management.
I got to say, I'm feeling pretty motivated right now. I'm ready to ditch that rat race and start building my own financial empire.
That's the spirit. And remember, it's not just about making money. It's about using that financial intelligence to create a life where you have freedom and abundance.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up this part, I want to leave everyone with something to think about. We've explored some pretty interesting financial concepts from Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Teens today.
We have, and while we've covered a lot, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. This book is packed with actionable advice and thought-provoking ideas. It's definitely worth a closer look on your own.
I have to say, I'm already feeling a bit more financially savvy just from our conversation today.
That's great to hear, but remember, it's not enough to just know this information. You've got to actually apply it to your life.
Right, knowledge is only powerful if you use it.
Exactly. So to wrap things up, I'd like to leave you with a little challenge inspired by the book.
Ooh, I love a challenge. What is it?
Think about one financial fear that's holding you back.
Okay.
It could be, the fear of investing or not having enough money,
Right.
or even the fear of success.
The last one is interesting. Fear of success. I don't think I've ever thought about it that way.
It's more common than you might think. Sometimes we sabotage ourselves because we're afraid of what might happen if we actually reach our goals.
That's a good point. Okay, so we identify a financial fear, then what?
Once you've identified it, ask yourself, how can I overcome this fear and use it to my advantage?
That's a powerful question. It changes the perspective from fear being this obstacle to it being a potential motivator.
Exactly. Our biggest fears often hide our biggest opportunities. And by facing those fears head on, we can unlock our true potential.
I love that. So if you're listening and that fear of losing money is holding you back from investing, remember what we learned from Rich Dad, Poor Dad for teens. Start early.
Yes.
Time is your greatest asset, and the sooner you start, the more time you have to build wealth and achieve financial freedom.
Absolutely. And investing doesn't have to be complicated. There are so many resources out there to help you get started. Even those small, consistent investments can make a huge difference over time.
Totally agree. And don't forget to check out Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Teens yourself to really dive deep into these concepts. It's a game changer no matter your age.
It really is. It can truly change your life if you're open to it.
Now, before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought. This book really hammers home the importance of mindset when it comes to finances.
Yeah.
It's not just about the numbers, it's about your beliefs and your attitude towards money.
Right. Your mindset can either hold you back or propel you forward.
So think about your own money mindset. What beliefs are working for you and what beliefs might be holding you back?
That's a great question to consider because once you identify those limiting beliefs, you can start challenging them and replace them with more empowering ones.
Well said. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. We hope you found it informative and inspiring.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep into the knowledge that empowers you.